If you've ever said there's got to be an easier way to do this, well, you're right. Today I'm sharing 33 of my favorite garden hacks that save time, money, space, and effort and keep my garden thriving. These are hacks I wish I would have known sooner, and after you tried a few of them, you'll wonder how you ever garden without them. First off is the sock swipe hack. This one is totally weird, but it totally works. If you've got a minor infestation of aphids and you don't want to spray, simply grab an old sock, dampen it just a bit, and then swipe the leaves gently to clean the leaves of aphids. Make sure you turn it over, do the same to the underside. Great to save time when you don't want to spray and you have a minor infestation. Next, save time and money by letting the garden save its own seeds. This works really well with beans. Here I have some scarlet runner beans that have dried on the vine. They kind of have a little rattle to them. You know, they're nice and dry in the pod. Just go ahead and pick off the dried up pods. Open them up. The beans are nice and dry and they're ready to plant. You can just go ahead and plant them right away. It also doubles to save time as succession planting, because then you've got some fresh new beans coming up when this current plant that's growing is done. This also works great for flowers and herbs like Zinnia, Cosmos, and Basil. If you're finding our content helpful, please click subscribe and give me a thumbs up. It really helps us out. Thanks. Next is the grab and go bucket. I keep a 3-gallon bucket with my essential tools and supplies handy to save me time from searching around the garden trying to locate them. And here I've got my favorite Hodag trowel, my cultivator, my Monterey takedown spray, a pair of scissors, a pair of pruners, twine, my isopropyl alcohol for cleaning my tools, my tomato tie-up clips, and I like to keep things clipped on the edges, like my sock swipe, my tie-up tape, a rag, and of course my gloves, because I'm constantly losing my gloves. So this keeps everything neat and tidy, all in one bucket, carry around the garden for me, and saves me time hunting down my essential tools and supplies. Next up is the Zinnia wiggle trick. Now, pruning your zinnias helps encourage fresh new blooms, but you gotta prune them at the right time. So what I do is the wiggle trick. If a zinnia wiggles and the stem is super floppy, like this one is here, it's not ready to prune. But if the stem is nice and sturdy and doesn't wiggle too much, it's a lot thicker of a stem, this is a good time to prune. Just follow the stem down to the first set of leaves, snip it off. This will make for longer lasting blooms inside the house and encourage fresh new blooms on your zinnias. Now you also want to deadhead your zinnias to encourage them to bloom late into the summer and into the fall. So here we have a zinnia that's past its prime. We're gonna snip it off. And here we can also apply the seed saving trick for the zinnias. You can sprinkle the zinnias into your hand, the dried up zinnias on the vine. Got all the seeds here. It's gonna save you money from buying new zinnia seeds, and then you just sprinkle them down right in place. So you've got new zinnias coming up once these ones die. Now this next one involves zero or little dollars, but adds major charm to your garden. And that is make your own trellises out of tree branches. This is an oblique trellis made out of tree branches and twine, made from trees I cut here in my own backyard. A couple other of my favorite tree branch trellises are the tree branch fence, the tree branch A-frame, and the tree branch ladder trellis. You can't go wrong with tree branches. Next up is the thirsty bird hack. Now birds are very thirsty, especially in the summertime, and they like to peck at my tomatoes to take a little drink, but unfortunately it leaves holes and damages my tomatoes. So what I do is I put this reflective tape up hanging from my tomato string trellises. It scares the birds away and keeps them off my trellises. Now we do love birds, so we like to provide some water for them, which deters them even further from my tomatoes by putting up some bird baths around the garden and cute little solar fountains that they love to play in, take a drink, and it saves my tomatoes from the birds. Not only do I have birds bothering my tomatoes and eating them, but I have all kinds of critters, squirrels, possums, you name it. So this next one is your save the tomatoes from the critters hack. And this one I love to use these net bags. And I grab them in 2 different sizes, a large size for larger tomatoes, a smaller size for smaller tomatoes, and it saves me a ton of time and effort covering my tomatoes and protecting them from critters. So I like to double them over and then slip them over my tomatoes while they're green or as they're ripening. And it's not a surefire guarantee, but it sure does go a long way towards protecting my tomatoes. I actually haven't had one eaten since I've been using the net bags. Just pull the drawstring and boom, you got protection on your tomatoes. Now here's a perfect example of how well the net bags worked. All the tomatoes that are covered in net bags, no nibbles out of them. But this one I didn't get covered. Looks really good from the top, right? Until I turn it over. The rats got to this one. So the net bags really do the trick. The tomato clip hack. I keep my tomato clips in this can in my Garden Go bucket. These clips are very inexpensive and allow me to quickly and easily secure my tomatoes to the string trellis or any other trellises. You can do a one-handed snip, and there they are, nice and secure. Now these clips also work well for other vining vegetables like cucumber, peas, and even flowers like zinnias and dahlias. Free plant hack. Basil easily roots from cuttings. So simply follow your basil main stem down to the next set of leaves, snip it off. This will give you some good basil to eat also. Just pop it in a glass of water out of direct sunlight on your windowsill. In a few weeks, it'll grow roots from the stem, and then you can pop it in a small container of soil. Once it's established and grows a little bit in that container, you can then put it out in your garden for a brand new free plant. You can do the same thing to get free tomatoes, which is a great thing to do this time of the year, towards the end of the season, to get fresh new tomatoes for fall. So here you can clip this sucker from the armpit of the tomato plant, and again, place it on the windowsill in a cup of water. It'll grow roots, put it in soil, and then place it out in the garden once it's established. Now another little hack to save your tomatoes from critters. This one's super, super easy. It does not involve putting anything over your tomato plants. Simply at first blush, or when the tomato plant just starts to turn red, harvest your tomato, keep the critters from eating it, and then take it inside the house, place it on your countertop to ripen, or put it inside a paper bag for even quicker ripening, and closing it in the paper bag will help contain the ethylene gases inside the paper bag and help ripen your tomato faster. Sometimes all I have is 10 minutes, and you know what? That's all it takes. On those days, I just choose one of the time-saving hacks from my book, The 10-Minute Gardener, which breaks it into small, bite-sized, doable chunks without feeling overwhelming. To save yourself some time, especially this time of the year when it's really warm, just start your warm weather seeds outside in flats. Saves you the time setting up your grow lights. The air temperature and the soil temperature is nice and warm. They germinate quickly, so put them in an area where they get sunlight in the morning, shade in the afternoon so they don't dry out too quickly, and before you know it, you're going to have fresh new plants to put in your garden. In the garden nook here, I've hacked the sunlight. Partial shade doesn't have to mean partial success. Plant shade-tolerant vegetables in those shady spots in your garden. That way you're going to get a harvest, even though you only have about 3 to 6 hours of sunlight a day. So here I've got some cherry tomatoes, don't need as much sunlight. I've got strawberries, herbs, and greens. All those vegetables thrive in partial shade. We've even got a very productive cucumber over here that's got a ton of cucumbers on the vine. This little hack here saves me so much time and space, and that is sow your greens thickly from microgreens outdoors. Once they get to about 2 to 3 inches tall, simply snip them off about every 2 to 3 inches apart. So this will thin them out, give you a nice little harvest of microgreens, and then allow the remaining seedlings to grow to full adult size for your salads. A simple tie up Tuesday routine helps me remember to tie up my plants. So what I do is I keep my stretchy tie tape here attached to my trellis, and then on Tuesdays and Thursdays, I simply come out here, grab a piece, and it makes it super quick and efficient and easy to tie up my cucumber plants. Keeps them healthy, keeps them producing. Wherever I can to save time, I like to use a clip-on shade cloth system. I simply clip a piece of shade cloth to my trellises on my garden beds, and on hot days, it's a quick, easy cover and install. Plant pest decoys like calendulas and nasturtiums, which actually attract pests like aphids and keep them off your vegetables. I like to use a pepper shade strategy to help me harvest more peppers. So peppers can actually be planted very closely together. And what this does is it actually helps shade the pepper fruit from sun scald. Sun scald is almost like a sunburn on the pepper fruit when it has a very thinning skin here. So by shading them, you'll protect them from sun scald. It will help you harvest more peppers and keep your peppers more healthy and productive. We love birds here in our garden, and I love to feed the birds for free. So this hack has to do with the sunflowers. They're not done just because they're done blooming. When the flowers are done blooming, is I simply snip the heads off and then set them out here in the sun to dry. Once they dry, the seeds fall off and you've got free seed for the birds. Here in the chill zone, we have the undergrow shade hack, and this one helps me harvest more vegetables. So on my trellis here, I've got some cucumbers growing. Underneath, I plant vegetables that enjoy extra shade like lettuce. Now this lettuce is just starting to bolt in the heat of the summer, but it's definitely extended the harvest into the summer when I normally wouldn't have lettuce growing at all. So you can see the difference between the lettuce under the trellis here and the lettuce that's not under the trellis that is already starting to bolt, go to flower, and then go to seed. So it definitely extends my harvest and gives me lettuce to eat longer. Now this hack here involves tucking in new plants around dead plants, again, to help extend your harvest and help you harvest more. So here my tiny Tim tomato plants are dying out. And what I've done is I've tucked in some additional tiny Tims right next to it, and another tomato here, so that way when these plants finish, I'll have another plant to take its place. I did the same thing up in front here with my basil. I harvested some of this red vein sorrel that was kind of hanging over, opened up a brand new spot for additional basil later in the summer and into the fall. Now summer is a time when it really heats up in the garden, so I like to do a shade cloth organization bin. So organize it once and thank yourself later. So what I have here in my bin is my shade cloth labeled by zone or by area of the garden. This is for the chill zone. That way you can just grab the piece that you need for the garden bed, and it saves you time and frustration in setup and really helps protect your plants. Here in the red planter area, I have another good hack for you here with tree branches. It's the stick and twine tree branch fence. This is super cute, adds a nice kind of chic look to this loose area, provides some nice light support to avoid the flowers kind of flopping over, and it looks really cute too. Now you can see I've got my grab and go stretchy tie tape all over my garden, and this helps me remember to tie up my dahlias, which are growing vertically here, about once a week. And would you look at how well they're doing. Look at that gorgeous dahlia bloom. It's just so beautiful. And also in here, I've got my vertical squash hack. Now this helps me get a ton more harvest from my squash and helps keep them, gives them a lot more airflow, reduces the powdery mildew. Got some gorgeous butternut squash here growing vertically, keeps it nice and neat and tidy too. Last but certainly not least is the fig espalier tree hack. Now usually a fig tree is quite huge, and when you espalier it or train it to grow horizontally against supports here up against my deck, it allows me to grow this huge fig tree in a relatively small space. I planted it last year, and this year it is absolutely loaded down with figs, and I cannot wait to harvest. There's tons of figs on this tree. It's a great way to grow a little bit in a small space. So I'll put a link to this video in the video description. It's definitely something you want to do when your fig trees or your other fruit trees are small, so you can train it as you grow. So it's very easy to do. I've got T-posts here with cable wire attached in between the T-posts. I tied it to the cable ties as it grew. And then as I get these little branches that shoot out front, I simply trim them off, because the whole goal here is to keep the tree nice and contained in this space that I have to grow it in. All of these hacks are what I use to help me save time, money, space, and effort in the garden, make gardening a lot more fun and a lot less overwhelming. And I think my favorite are the tomato hacks, which help me grow more tomatoes. So let me know which ones are your favorite hacks and which ones you're going to be trying this summer. Thanks for watching. See you next time in the garden.